Primetime's been wondering where Michelle Obama's been. She snubbed both Jimmy Carter's funeral and Trump's inauguration. And last week, Barack went to a basketball game all by himself. Turns out Michelle's been busy working on a new podcast, and so far, it's been a flop. The first 2 episodes have been up all day and only gotten a few thousand views on YouTube. Half of them are probably Primetime producers. But still, Michelle's spilling the family secrets, like how Barry gets on her nerves. Listen.
Barack, he had to adjust to what on time was for me.
Because he was on that island time.
Well, but, I've got this husband who's like, when it's time to leave, it's 3 o'clock, he's getting up and going to the bathroom. And I was like, dude, like 3 o'clock departure means you've done all that, It's like, don't start looking for your glasses, at the 3 o'clock departure. But he's improved over 30 years of marriage. But that was you must adjust.
Michelle says her husband doesn't really like people, doesn't know how to talk to him, and doesn't even really care.
When a girlfriend comes to visit, it's usually like, you got to stay for 2 days because it's going to take us
so much time to capture
check up. Now, Barack's come in, he's come out, and he's like, y'all still talking? He'll sit down for 5 minutes, be like, how are the boys? And the flip side of my husband, right? Because he golfs. And golfing takes as long as the first session of our, it takes 5 hours to golf. He'll golf with his buddies, come back, and be like, how's X? He's good. It's like, what'd y'all talk about? Nothing.
Hate to break it to Michelle, but guys don't get deep on the course. Normally, when someone rags on their spouse, there's usually a little love. Like, Jimmy, he never listens, but he looks cute in his suit. But that wasn't cute. Did she drop this podcast to distance herself from Barack so she could run for president? Every politician starts a podcast right before they launch their next campaign. Looking at you, Gavin.
Boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. So we got to talk about the Democrats and their new strategy to save the dying party, which is to start podcasts, right? No, Democrats are not reevaluating their extreme policy positions and not being in touch with the American people or reality. No, that's not a problem for Democrats in regards to why they lost. It's because they didn't do enough podcasts, okay? And this is why you have Democrats like Michelle Obama and Gavin Newsom starting up podcasts because they believe that this is the way to go, right? This is how they win moving forward. They got to get on podcasts because people haven't heard enough Democrat Party propaganda, right? And let's just say it's not really working out that well for Democrats thus far. And we have a couple of stories to talk about here, examples. The first being Michelle Obama, who just launched her podcast with her brother, Craig Robinson. And she's getting roasted because not only did this podcast flop at launch, I mean, it only had 60K views in one day, okay? And I guarantee you a vast majority of those views come from people who are just going into the comment section and roasted Michelle Obama, okay? But it also has almost 8,000 dislikes and 3.5 thousand likes, which is not good, right? Not good at all, okay? She's being ratioed. Clearly, people are not liking this podcast debut. And again, I can totally see why, because the most entertaining part of this podcast was the comments, right? Just reading the comments, because the actual podcast was a snores fest.
As a result, you and me, we were physically close growing up.
Remember when we used to share a bedroom?
Of course. That was our life growing up. We shared the same room until you went to high school, right?
That's right.
Well, let's first just recall how small the apartment we lived in. It seemed like it was huge, but it was essentially 2 bedrooms, right?
No, it was 1 bedroom.
Well, that little offshoot bedroom that mom and dad stayed in, you would consider that a bedroom.
But that was the only bedroom. The room we were in was actually the living room. And the living room what we called the living room was actually the dining room.
Huh. Okay. Well, I couldn't have gotten through 8 years in the White House without my big brother. But you talked me into supporting his run. And he was smart enough to know that he needed to come to you and sell you on the idea.
Everything happened so fast because Barack went from a state senator to a U.S. senator. And next thing you know, people were saying, this guy should run for president. You were like, no. Not doing it.
Yeah, so you seen that, you heard that. Okay, Michelle Obama, despite all of the attention, the media press, all of the momentum that she had going into launching this podcast, only 60,000 people watched it in the first day, right? And there was way less people watching it in the first few hours. Yeah, this is bad. This is really, really, really bad, okay? And she's currently, again, being roasted for it, as you have right-wing influencers on X celebrated this week as former First Lady Michelle Obama's new podcast debuted to disappointing numbers on YouTube. Miss Obama and her brother, Craig Robinson, announced the launch of a video podcast Monday, promising weekly episodes, and dropped 2 episodes to kickstart the new venture. In my opinion, podcast uploaded 2 episodes Wednesday morning that attracted 47,000 and 15,000 views, with total viewership in 24 hours on YouTube reaching just 62,000. Yeah, this is real bad. Again, just imagine being the first lady or the former first lady of the United States of America. Okay, everybody knows who you are. You're a household name. And there's also a lot of speculation about whether or not Barack Obama and Michelle are going through divorce. I don't know. Okay, maybe Obama has better options. I don't know what's going on here. Okay, but regardless, she has a lot of fame. Okay, she did her little publicity tour and all that stuff, and you still only have 60K views in the first day. Okay, and you're a former first lady. Yeah, this is real bad, right? Real bad. It shows you just how much the Democrat Party brand has been damaged. And also on top of that, how much influence has been lost by the Obamas, right? Remember, Obama tried to revive Kamala's campaign, and that backfired because Obama ended up basically insulting black men for not supporting Kamala Harris. And yeah, that didn't go well. Okay, so again, the Obamas are basically now irrelevant. They have no pull whatsoever with regular, normal, everyday people, including the blacks, right? Including the blacks, because that is their main usefulness, right? When it comes to Barack Obama and Michelle Obama, which is to keep black people in line and vote for Democrats. But again, they're not even useful for that anymore. So again, this is the Democrat Party falling apart, okay? Even Obama, the Obamas have zero pull, okay? At least, again, with normal, regular people. The 2 episodes touched on subjects including divorce and other aspects of their personal lives. How the episodes performed on other platforms such as Spotify and Apple was not immediately clear, but the disappointing launch on YouTube sent much of the right into a celebratory mood. Joe Rogan, who is viewed on the right as the podcasting standard bearer, dropped an interview late Wednesday with venture capitalist Jacques Vallée that quickly racked up nearly 800,000 views. Rogan's interviews with Bill Murray, Elon Musk, and Woody Harrelson in recent weeks saw viewership ranging from 3.5 million to 12 million. Yeah, Michelle Obama isn't coming anywhere near those numbers, okay, at all. So again, she's being roasted for this. Benny Johnson says, Michelle Obama's first couple podcast episodes absolutely flopped, not even getting a combined 20,000 views in the 15 hours after posting. The comments filled with people saying nobody asked for this. What an utter failure. Who thought this was a good idea? Robbie Starbuck says, Michelle Obama started a podcast called In My Opinion with her brother. It's sponsored by Pine Sol and Rivian. Both have extensive DI policies. The show has 14,000 and 13,074 views. Rivian calls Latinos Latinx. They're just another woke company propping up unpopular wokeness. Shira says, Michelle Obama's podcast had a disappointing launch. Meghan Markle's show only reached a quarter of the views. Harry and Meghan Gardner both were mass marketed. Some will say this is racism, but I think people are tired of celebrities selling them what to do and how to live. We don't care about your fake opinions anymore. We want honesty and truth. Alex Brusewitz says, Michelle Obama debuted her new podcast in a couple days with the full weight of the mainstream liberal media machine hyping it up across every major outlet and network. Free promotion that most creators could only dream of. Yet, despite this massive push, she scraped together a measly 17K subscribers, and her first 3 episodes have limped to a pathetic 74K views combined. As someone with deep expertise in this space, I can say with authority, these numbers aren't just unimpressive, they're an outright disaster. This is just more proof that the Obamas' grip on the American public has completely evaporated. They will no influence, no sway, nothing. Trump didn't just beat them, he obliterated their relevance. Yeah, I agree with that. I think that's 100% accurate. 100% accurate. That's exactly what's going on here. Brittany Hugaboom says, Michelle Obama was loved in the 2010s and now, even with mass marketing campaign, got less views than the average 20-year-old girl on TikTok making a video about her Starbucks order. This is why Newsom is bringing more right-leaning guests on his podcast. He knows that's what gets the views and also will make him appear centrist and likable to those who don't live in California or for a potential 2028 run. Yeah, so speaking of Gavin Newsom, the mainstream liberal media, liberals, Democrats are upset, right? They're boohoo, whine, and cry about Gavin Newsom and his fake political evolution to a moderate, okay, because that's what he's trying to do in order to run for president. And he's getting a lot of backlash for his podcast. So, again, you have a Democrat podcast failing out the gate. Take a look.
I woke up this morning fully expecting the outrage of the day to be something that like Trump did, or the fact that Jared Golden, a Democrat, voted for the continuing resolution last night, which is also insane. And then I see this. I see that Gavin Newsom has decided to invite Steve Bannon on his podcast, and they're going to have just a wonderful conversation. Last week, he had Charlie Kirk on his podcast. That I didn't get extremely outraged about, even though Kirk is one of the bad guys. Bannon is the author of this chaos we're seeing right now. Bannon is the one that says you need to flood the zone with shit. Bannon is the one that has basically authored where we are and what Donald Trump wants. And because Gavin Newsom wants to run for president and thinks he's going to be this healer, he brings on this nationalist. Many of us on the right sacrificed our careers taking these people on, and Newsom's trying to make a career with them. This is insane.
We got to talk about Gavin Newsom and his new podcast. And the most recent MAGA guest that he had on his podcast is Steve Bannon. I listened to the whole thing. It was very substantive, a really interesting conversation. When Steve Bannon says the election was stolen and the Democratic governor of California, the fifth largest economy in the world, does not correct him on that, that surprised me.
And added to the list, right? I mean, there's that moment. And then there were his comments about transgender athletes as well. Different.
With Charlie Kirk.
Right. And then even in addition to all of that, just reversed a little bit, rewind, I should say. And he was also one of the Democrats who was going to the border and a little critical of what the Biden administration was doing. So this has been some time coming, but it's at a point now with characters now that we weren't expecting.
Right. I think this is a poor strategy for Gavin Newsom. I actually did think that he was one of the leaders that would come out in terms of 2028. I remember watching his annual State of the Union address in California, and he criticized Republicans, and he promoted California as an antidote to the poisonous populism of the right. Now he has a Steve Bannon on the show who's saying, you know, you're going to get to populism. There's a long road. He gives zero pushback there. He gives zero pushback, as Sarah pointed out, to really what is a slur against Senator Warren, a sitting senator. He gives a platform and normalizes, in my view, an election denier and someone who is the person who is behind Project 2025. And I believe that, you know, if you are going to be a public servant, you better be unapologetically authentic, because voters can sniff out inauthenticity in a second. And I thought that was one of the most inauthentic things I have seen Gavin Newsom do.
Wow.
So
you don't believe in the let them hang themselves theory?
No, I'm terribly disappointed. I think you meet energy with energy, and what he did was he showed his pretty white teeth and his cute face and did nothing other than that. And I think
now, what I find to be hilarious about this reaction from Sunny Holston, who's clearly upset, right, is the fact that as a married woman, she has went on national television multiple times and commented on Gavin Newsom's looks. Clearly, she seems to be enamored with him and how he looks. And this is something that, you know, she has expressed multiple times, okay, that Gavin Newsom is so attractive, which, you know, I wonder what her husband, who's apparently facing some lawsuits, thinks about that.
We need somebody who can get the country back in line.
Yeah.
Because if you can name me a Republican who has a shot to do that. That's what I'm more
I
interested
hope
in
it's not
because
Death,
I think it'll be
Death
DeSantis.
Santis. I hope it's not Death Santis over in Florida because I think he's
What
a
do you call him,
fascist.
Death Santis?
Death Santis. I think he handled COVID miserably. I think he's a fascist and a biggit. But
Yes. Those are his good points.
Those are his good points. Exactly. Bing,
Don't
bing.
hold back, Sonny. Tell
Bing,
us how you
bing.
really feel.
And I hate this. I hate this talk about. I think people saying that he's too old. I mean, if the former, twice impeached, disgraced president thinks he's such a young spring chicken. I mean, he's going to be 78 when Joe Biden is 81. And so I don't like this ageism argument. But I will say,
true.
yeah.
And also,
Biden,
Biden, when he was here, I asked him, he works out every day.
Yeah.
I don't think Trump does. Take a look.
Yeah, I mean, take a look. Exactly.
Yeah.
But I do think there are plenty of, Democrats that have tons of verve and energy. I mean, I like Gavin Newsom because he's really pretty to look at, and I think he does a great job in California. I like Kamala and Pete Buttigieg
I love Pete
ticket.
Buttigieg.
I think that looks great.
You think they could win, really?
Well, I would vote for them.
Of course,
I hope
you
this
would.
country is ready for something like that. I think the brain power alone would just obliterate Trump or
I would just love
DeSantis.
to see.
Yeah, so clearly Sonny Holston, who doesn't really like white people, right? She seems to hate white people. Once again, it seems as if you have these so-called pro-blackity blacks wanting to be with a white man, right? Secretly, they want that hug from the white man, and she's very disappointed that the white man is inviting people on his podcast that she doesn't like, that she disagrees with politically. And this is exactly why Democrats are going to struggle. I promise you guys, The View, if the Democrats lose, okay, if they lose in 2026, okay, in 2028, part of the reason why is going to be because of The View, right? And I'm going to tell you why. It's because these extremists in the Democrat Party, they're not allowing the Democrats to evolve. They're not going to allow the Democrats to be a moderate party, right? What Gavin Newsom is trying to do is that he's trying to pull a bait and switch. That's what he's trying to do. He is not a moderate. He's a far left lunatic, okay? Everybody knows it, but he's pretending to be a moderate, okay? Because he knows that that's where the Democrat Party needs to go if they want to win in 2028. He knows that, but the base of Democrats can't even let him do that, right? They can't even let him pretend to be a moderate. They can't let him pull off the bait and switch. They can't. They can't. They're mad because he has Steve Bannon on his podcast. Again, I don't really know exactly what is there to be upset about. I've seen Steve Bannon on a lot of shows, on a lot of podcasts, right? And some of whom happen to be left-leaning, right? But, in this case, Gavin Newsom, you can't talk to that guy, right? You can't talk to Charlie Kirk. And it's just funny because Democrats are so stupid. They don't understand what the play here is. Maybe they do. Maybe they just don't care. Maybe they want him to be openly Trump deranged. They want him to be openly far left. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, they believe that that's how they're going to win, right? They're going to win by being more Trump deranged. And that's just simply not the case. It's not the case, okay? So, again, I just find all of this to be hilarious to me. It's Democrats just showing once again that their party that has no direction whatsoever. Okay, Gavin Newsom can't even fake being a moderate without getting backlash from his base. And this is why the Democrats are going to stay an extremist party, right? As long as they appeal to the extremists, that's how the party is going to stay. And if they continue to stay extreme, then they're not going to win anything, right? And The View, the cackling is they're making sure that the Democrat Party stays an extremist party that is out of touch with regular, normal, everyday people. So, hey, Michelle Obama podcast flopping. Okay, Gavin Newsom getting backlash for talking to people that leftists don't like. Yeah, not good for Democrats. Let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.